Hmm. My dear brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I have a very dear brother with me today. He'll be talking us about his career path and how you um, may enter the same career path one day as well. Uh, so, dear brother Nashir, can you please give us a brief introduction about yourself, please?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is No Shervan Nasser, or when I introduce myself in corporate, my name is No Share, like I don't share. Um, I have been working full time for about 2.5 years now. I'm a finance analyst at the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. Um, and for my undergraduate degree, I did a double major in economics and project management.
Oh, wow. Very nice. What led you to actually choose your current career path?
My current career path, there's a couple of ways to answer this. First of all, it's probably a game of whack-a-mole. It's not as straightforward as say medicine or law or say for instance you wanna go down the tech pathway, for instance. It's not a very straightforward path. Like for medicine, there's a very there's a straightforward way to enter into medicine, do medical school, specialize, get a role, and progress, etc. Same goes for law, and you could argue tech is the same as well. Software engineering, cyber. For me, it's like I went more of the commerce pathway. So my degree is a Bachelor of Arts, but what my major was in economics. Um, what led me to pursue a major in economics? Firstly, I wasn't doing too well in high school. Year 12, math and physics were my two most terrible subjects. I was a lot better in subjects like English. I did an advanced and extension level of English. I did business studies as well. I did a little bit of tech as well, which I quite enjoyed. But I guess it was more so those critical thinking or those essay oriented type of units or those humanities type of units that I was attracted to. Um, as much as I tried to sort of gel with STEM wasn't really wanting to gel with me.
Mm.
So I guess there's only so far you can take it. But I guess in terms of what led me to banking, it's one of those things you just sort of throw your application in a million different directions, and Combank just seemed to like me more than anyone else that they gave me an offer. So, it doesn't get any more raw than that. It's one of those things where it's not the job, it's not you that chooses the job, it's the job that chooses you, if that makes sense. It's like the sorting hat from Harry Potter.
Okay, wow. Wow, okay. Um, so if someone wants to go into your career path or similar, which subject would you recommend that someone should do to actually follow like a similar career path?
In high school or in uni or both?
Um, I think that's let's go high school and uni.
High school, not necessary. I never studied economics at high school before doing economics at uni, but a lot of people choose to study business studies. Um, it's a good introduction, but you're not going to be left behind if you don't do it. So, if you're someone that does a lot of sciences in high school, or someone that does a lot of tech subjects in high school, if you're someone that does a lot of your arts and humanities or your creative arts, performing arts in high school, you're not going to be left behind. Uh,
Okay.
most courses at uni and most unis will start you from scratch. They might say at the very least that you have a assumed knowledge for math. So, but
Mm.
whether that be your advanced level math, being able to do basic calculus or basic algebra, or even just like having some mathematical intuition at the very least is highly recommended. Because finance, if you wanted to specialize in finance for argument's sake, or economics, there's a fair bit of math and algebra in that.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of, I guess, degrees, the most common degree that people do is a Bachelor of Commerce or a
Okay.
Bachelor's of Business.
Yeah.
And then from there, there's a variety of majors and minors that you can choose from. The most common are things like your finance or your accounting or economics or marketing or human
Yeah.
resources, or people like to do industrial relations. People like to do corporate law. People like to do, uh, business information systems, which is kind of like tech, but in a business sense. There are people that like to do applied finance or theoretical finance, or people that like to combine those two. They might do finance and economics, or accounting and finance, or accounting and economics. So commerce and law, that's another big,
Yeah.
very popular option out there. So
Wow.
commerce is really the main, I guess, degree wise, and then your major. comes down to your interest, and then people do switch majors from one year to the other because, well, it's sort of a game of whack-a-mole. If you don't like one, you
Yeah.
try the other. If you don't like the other, you try the next one.
Okay. Nice. But like so so what you're saying is like someone can basically so they only have to do commerce, or they can also do like another bachelor's like in
Commerce
the
is the
business realm.
most common pathway. Oh, like commerce is the most common pathway. Like, I mean, I can give you a couple of examples from my workplace. It's like I did a Bachelor of Arts. I didn't do any accounting and finance yet. I'm in the accounting and finance space. Um,
Yeah.
for the past 2.5 years when I was in the graduate program at Combank for Finance, I was in teams that did statutory reporting for the half-year profit
Mm.
announcement. I think what today's Monday, in 2 days' time on Wednesday, 13th of what I think this is August.
Yeah.
Wednesday, 13th of August, the Commonwealth Bank we're releasing its profit announcement for the entire financial year.
Okay. Well.
I've been in those. I've spent time in that team that does not the 12-month announcement, but the 6-month announcement. I mean, that's an experience in itself. And then everyone in that team, they're all chartered accountants. They all have an accounting background,
Yeah.
and they all took a very traditional pathway. But I've met people. There's one guy that was in the procurement arm of the bank, but he studied civil engineering and finance. It has
Oh
nothing to do
wow.
with procurement, and all of it is on the job. I met
Mm.
someone else who works as a in product management in retail banking. By retail banking, I mean like home loans, credit cards, personal loans,
Yeah.
savings and
Mm.
deposits. He actually came from a medical research background. I think he was either pursuing like a master's or a PhD in medical research, but then
Oh
he
wow.
then transitioned to um, retail banking because I guess it's to do with the critical thinking and the research skills. And how do you then
Mm.
transfer your ability to research in complex patterns in medicine, and how do you transfer that to corporate? How do you uh, understand complex consumer patterns when it comes to say credit cards or home loans
Yeah.
or savings products or deposit products? So that there's a lot of transferability. That there's no like if someone advertises a degree in banking, I mean, sure you can do it, but it won't necessarily give you an extra edge. I've done
Okay.
all my learning on the
Oh wow. Okay. Oh,
like I
that's really
came in
good.
not
Yeah.
knowing what any financial statements look like. So people that are studying commerce or business studies will probably have heard terms like profit and loss or balance sheets or income
Yeah.
statements. Your three main financial statements. I had no exposure or knowledge to that before coming here.
Yeah.
And I learned all of that on the job. I learned what a general ledger was on the job. I learned where journals were on the job. I learned what
Oh wow.
reconciliations were on the job. So it's one of those things that the degree only gets you so far, but
Yeah.
they're more interested in your attitude.
Okay. Wow. So
So
basically, you could basically start from zero and basically go to like to legit to like
yeah.
top from experience and everything like that.
I mean, like I've if you look at our current chief executive Matt Common, believe it or not, his bachelor's was a bachelor's in aviation.
Oh wow. Okay. Wow.
Like he
Wow. What do you know?
granted him he did a master's in commerce to sort
Yeah.
of build up on his commerce
Mm.
knowledge, but his bachelor's was in aviation.
Oh. Wow. That's wow.
I mean, if he can
Wow.
do a bachelor's in aviation and make it to the CEO of the biggest bank in the country, I mean, the
Exactly.
sky's your limit. Pun
Yeah.
intended.
Exactly. That's it. That's true. Okay, so are there any like extracurricular activities or experiences that could help someone become more familiar with his
Yeah,
career?
yeah, definitely. I think, like I said, it's still with the attitude, and extracurriculars feed into your attitude. So, from my perspective, I mean, this is probably more employment related, but I used to work for my dad's business. So I used to do a lot of bookkeeping for his business, like payroll or monthly GSTs,
Mm.
or even just like admin type work.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But in terms of extracurriculars, it's, how well do you work in a team, or how well do you take initiative, or how well do you give feedback? How well do you take feedback? How do you sort of interact with other people? And a lot of my interactions came from the Jamaat. So, all the projects that I do with Jamaat, be it an Ijtima or Darbiti camp, or
Yeah.
just monthly AMLA meetings, all that is stakeholder management, all that is event management, all that is teamwork. um, the trick here is how do you then identify those activities that you do on an
Mm.
extracurricular basis and then talk about them in terms of a corporate skill set.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the real
Okay.
trick, and that's where there's no easy recipe, there's no easy formula. There are
Yeah.
some tried and tested methods to, I guess, uh, figure out where the gold is.
Mm.
But in terms of, I guess, saying that extracurricular activities, a lot of people, what they do, they join their finance society or their accounting society or their business society or any other society at uni.
Yeah.
Basically, it shows that you're more than just you studying a bachelor's degree, or you're more than just working Macca's shifts from like 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. 3 days a week.
Mm.
You are an individual. You have a story to tell.
Yeah.
You have an impact on society. Impact is really big in corporate.
Yeah.
What is your impact that you want to make?
Okay, wow. So technically, kind of like just jump into the deep end and then see where that takes you. Like that kind of like from the experience that you
At
get,
the end of the
kind of
day,
like
it's like if you were to get thrown into the deep end, like
yeah,
how would you respond? Are you someone that's going to panic? Are you someone that's going to take a deep breath? You're going to take it one step at a time. It's like for me,
yeah,
I didn't know anything about basic finance. The first team that I started in,
mm,
they were very good in the sense that a lot of the work that they did was very fundamental. So that's the sort of thing that first year accounting students learn. What does it mean
yeah,
to write a journal? What is a credit? What is a debit? What does it mean to process statements on the general ledger? Now I
yeah.
learned all of that on the job. And the 6 months in that team, every month they would incrementally increase my workload, and then I would then experience a new aspect of the work. And by the end of the 6 months, I was able to do it end to end all by myself, and that was all through on the job learning.
Oh wow.
So
Okay, wow.
I never studied
Yeah,
any of it.
yeah,
Like coming out of uni, I could argue with you about inflation and unemployment
mm,
and whether tomorrow the RBA is going to cut the cash rate or not.
yeah,
But if you ask me, well, there's the balance sheet over here, there's a profit and loss statement over here, tell me the relationship between the two, I would just freeze. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's a foreign language to me. So
yeah.
I went into the finance and accounting arm of the biggest bank in the country, not knowing what anything in finance looked like.
Yeah.
So it
Oh
all
wow,
came down to my attitude.
wow. Damn. Wow, wow. Okay, wow. So how long is a course of study or training actually required for someone if they want to like do it? Is it 3, 5 years or
I think I'll split that into two parts. I think I'll split that into the
yeah,
degree, and then I'll split into certification, because certification is very common in the space that I work in.
yeah,
So degree, typical commerce degree takes about 3-ish years, give or take, depending which uni you go to. Um, some unis will mandate or they'll advertise an honors component that can add 1 year extra.
yeah.
Um, doesn't make a big deal of a difference in helping you stand out. Not necessarily, I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
Uh, you can do it if you like, if you're passionate about it. Honors basically is a pathway into research or a pathway into more, I guess, um, in economics, for instance, if you do honors, you're more likely to be employed by the ACCC or the RBA, or by a private corporate like Deloitte Access Economics or
Yeah,
Houston Kemp Economics, or the Treasury or someone like that. Like they're more likely to sort of look at you favorably, but that's a very niche area. So
yeah,
honors is not necessary. Otherwise, you can do a bachelor's of commerce in 3 years if you do a typical full-time load. And
yeah.
then in my space, what people do, they don't particularly pursue masters, but they put a lot of emphasis on certification.
Okay.
So there's certifications such as your chartered accountancy or a CA. There's a CP, I think that stands for chartered professional accountant. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then there's CFA, chartered financial analyst. I
Yeah,
actually attempted the CFA level 1 exam a couple of months ago.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't pass, but I definitely learned a lot.
Okay, wow.
It was basically, if you studied a finance degree at uni, you would have passed it quite, with a good margin, as it was basically revision for your 3 years of finance. But for me, 80% of the content was brand new, so I learned a lot.
Yeah,
I didn't score high enough to pass, but I mean, it's definitely worth the shot. Though
okay.
otherwise, people
Yeah,
will do a chartered accountancy. That'll take them anywhere from 2 to 6 years, depending on whether they do a full-time load or a part-time load, or if they have to do any
yeah,
bridging courses to start CA, depending on what the curriculum is. And once you get the CA credential, that basically it's like a sort of a signal to the market to say, well, I have a competency at some standard that can be measured, irrespective of which industry I'm in. So
yeah,
if you want to move up the ladder, you can just say, "Oh, I got a CA." Helps me stand out. Or if you want to move to a different company or move to a different industry, it helps you stand out. Or if you want to work overseas, then it helps you stand out.
yeah. Okay, wow. So it's basically quite varied and obviously all
Oh yeah,
depends on
yeah, yeah.
like where
Like
you want to go.
a senior manager once said
Mm,
to me is that um, like to paraphrase what he said, there's no such thing as a linear career path in corporate. There's a general manager that I know from retail banking. When I say general manager, I mean like, a couple of steps below the CEO. That's how high up he is.
Oh wow. Okay.
He never did any credential after his bachelor's, but he started off as an intern and he basically worked his way up.
Okay.
So
Wow.
so each career path is unique.
Yeah.
So in corporate, there's no tried and tested way. Yes, there's a sort of a very common pathway that people take, studying an accounting degree, then doing a
Yeah.
chartered accountancy. That's a very sort of a very common thing to do, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that there aren't exceptions to that. And certainly now we're in the post AI world.
Mm.
Saying that you have an accounting degree doesn't really cut it anymore. It's like, oh, okay, let me give you a data set that's got, hundreds of millions of thousands of rows and columns and lots of data
Yeah.
points that you may not understand. Make sense of it. Can you do
Mm.
that, or are you going to freak out?
Oh wow. Okay.
And then,
Wow.
okay, let's then take it a
Mm.
step further. It's like, okay, now we have AI. If I gave you an AI model, how long is it
Yeah.
going to take for you to learn the AI model? I'm more interested in knowing whether you can take this AI model and use it to improve our processes, as opposed to you knowing the ins and outs of finance.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
So, like, it changes
Wow.
quite quickly. And, in the
Yeah.
post chat GPT world, it has
Yeah.
changed phenomenally quickly.
Okay. I did not expect that. I mean, obviously AI is going to change everything, but okay. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's scary, but it's a great
It's,
time to be alive,
no, it is that is true. That is true. Okay, now after you get to the ka-ching of the career, how much is someone likely to get paid in this field? Like, say from
um,
starter to whatever maximum they can
Look,
reach or
it
potentially.
varies quite wildly. It varies quite wildly. I, for instance, as a grad, in the finance function, I started off on a 70 grand salary, which I would say is more on the lower end.
Okay.
People say in tech, for instance, in the tech function, they might start off at 80 grand or 90 grand.
Mm.
Um, Retail banking around about the 80K mark, and then their graduate programs go for a year, so they roll off into, I don't know, 100 or 110. The tech guys I know roll off into 120. So you're a
Okay.
24-year-old making 120, working for a big four bank. I mean, that's crazy money.
Yeah.
Um, and then for me, it's like, okay, when we got bumped to 90 when we rolled off the finance grad program, still on the lower end, but
Yeah.
like that's just a start. And then, well, where does it go? Well, the sky's the limit. I mean, pay is just one thing for me. Our workplace policy is that for every 12 months of full-time work that you do, you get awarded $1,000 worth of shares. So
Okay.
that's
Wow.
like a perk that you get. That's like a gift from the company to say, well, okay, you've been loyal to us for uh, one entire year working full-time. We'll award you $1,000 worth of shares. Um, and then that becomes part of your share portfolio. You'd never have to purchase that. Um, so that's some of the perks that you can get. But I guess, if you want to talk in pure monetary terms,
Yeah.
then 70 is like the minimum. How high can
Yeah.
you go? I mean, you can go up to like 150, 160
Yeah.
uh, over a period of 10 years or something like that. If you assume every 1.5 to 2 years you jump to a new promotion, or you jump
Mm.
sideways. And
Yeah.
then if you get high enough, it's not so much about your base salary that matters anymore. It's how much you get in shares that matter now, because that becomes your
Yeah.
effective net worth. We're talking,
Okay.
in the easily into the six figures in that sense.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So
If you,
it's
if you
kind of
look at
like
the
yeah. Yeah.
so if you look at, say, the pay packet of Matt Common, or the board, which I believe is public, you'll see their salary isn't like, they'll have a base pay, but a lot of people are more interested in the value of their shares, which are in the millions of dollars.
Yeah. Wow. So okay. So it's kind of like a monetary and also kind of like a long-term payment, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Kind of that, yeah. Okay, wow.
So I guess in terms of money, it's not like something where the government caps it or anything. Um,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you're working for a for-profit entity. If you can get more profit, then you can afford to pay yourself more.
Okay, wow. So it's kind of like you help the company and then they kind of like help you back. It's kind of like that.
Um,
Kind of.
in a
Well,
sense, in a
yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah.
I guess
In
the
a
higher up
sense.
you go, the more true that gets. The higher up you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. That makes sense. That's true. Okay. So like, I mean, I think you've answered this question, but what future opportunities or career prospects are there available for someone? Like,
Um, in this space, I think it's a space that's always changing. It's one
yeah.
of those things that, what are you willing to do to put yourself ahead of the curve?
Okay.
Um, I know, for instance, at my workplace, Amazon Web Services in the tech space is a very big thing in our workplace, or AWS as we call it.
Yeah.
Um, and anyone that wants to work in that space, they ought to be certified. So it's like, well, okay, even if you're not in the space and you want to make a move into that space, it's to your advantage to go and be certified in AWS. So
Okay.
it's one of the things. It's one of those things where it's like the opportunities are there, but you sort of have to be of the mindset to look for them. You know,
Okay.
the timing is key. Nobody's going to come to you and say, "Hey, look, I've got this for you." You know, goodwill doesn't land you a contract in corporate. You have to hustle. You have to grind. You have
Yeah.
to put your name out. If you have, I remember there was an entry level role for data analytics a few months back. Um, there were 200 applicants for an entry level role, and the role was only advertised for 7 days.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to put the question to you: how are you going to get yourself into the top five of those 200 who are going to make it to the interview? Because they only took 5 people for the interview.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, obviously you'll have to, like first have like a good know-how with the people who are hiring you and have like a good, um,
Exactly.
like a, well, how do you say it? Like a very good image,
Yes, and
Yeah.
there's a sort of a lingo in corporate that your network is your net worth. So it's
Yeah.
not necessarily about what you know, it's about who you know, and it's about who they know. Can you sort
Ah.
of leapfrog from one person to another person to the third person to the fourth person and sort of grow your network that way? Because
Okay.
they're the ones that are going to say, "Oh yeah, I know this guy.
Yeah.
He's interested in this. Let me connect you with them," and
Yeah.
then that's how you'll land an interview. You may never have to apply,
Hmm.
at all. Like I've seen stories of people who have never put together a job application. They just know the right people, and hey presto, they've landed a new role, and they
Wow.
scored themselves a pay rise,
Wow. So,
and they've
wow.
never prepped a resume in their life.
Wow.
So it is
Okay.
possible.
Yeah.
Um, which is part of it luck, perhaps, but part of it is also
Hmm.
timing and your mindset.
Okay. So that means if you're someone who's obviously like determined, then
Yes.
then
Yeah.
you can actually get to it.
Oh yeah. Like you can make a name for yourself if you're willing to put in the effort.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Wow, that's actually pretty interesting. Okay. So final question. In what ways can someone use this career or like a similar career to actually serve in the Jamaat?
Um, Look, if you want to be traditional about it, accounting is always something that's needed in the Jamaat, whether you're doing finance or whether you're doing auditing or that sort of
Yeah.
thing. But even then, I think, even then, I'm personally not of the opinion that your degree has to be tied to service of the Jamaat. I think there are people who can serve the Jamaat irrespective of what their degree is. Like my undergraduate degree is in economics. I'm not really doing labor force
Yeah.
participation surveys for the
Mm.
Jamaat at all. I'm not looking at inflation in the Jamaat, so
Yeah.
to speak. Um, but like at the end, it comes down to your critical thinking skills. And in corporate, critical thinking and people management are basically what what will make your career go higher and higher. It's all about the soft skills. How do you interact with people? How do you work through a difficult scenario, or difficult conversation, or if someone confronts you and they say something that's they shouldn't have said, how do you sort of respond back? It's like one of those things where people won't necessarily remember you for how poorly you did a job. People
Yeah.
will remember you how responded to that scenario. So it's like,
Okay.
okay, what's the sort of impact that you want to leave? What's the
Mm.
sort of impression that you want to leave? And it's that sort of uh, it's that professionalism that will help you in the Jamaat, in the way you go about doing your work. Doesn't matter if you're doing manual labor, you're setting up for an event, you're winding down in that event, you're doing pot cleaning.
Yeah.
You'll apply a certain level of professionalism to your work that you would have learned at your workplace, that you would have picked up from your manager, your senior manager at your workplace. that
Yep.
you otherwise would not have learned. So I think it comes down to the soft skills. It's not necessary that, I do a lot of spreadsheet work at my workplace, that I'm necessarily going to be doing spreadsheet work in the Jamaat. It's about, okay, well, how do I
Yep.
sort of compartmentalize all of that data,
Yep.
uh, and sort of make a judgment call out of it? Or, if
Yep.
I need to make a judgment call with very, very, very small amount of information and on a tight timeline.
Mm.
Well, if that's reflective of what I do at work, if there are very tight timelines that I have to meet, how do I go
Yeah.
about juggling that?
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
So again, it's about
Wow.
that skill
Yeah.
transferability.
Yeah.
Like I said before, there was a guy who studied medical research. I
Yeah.
think he was on his way to do a PhD, but all of a sudden he jumped, and now he's a assistant product manager in retail banking.
Wow.
It's possible.
Wow. Okay. Wow. I'm honestly speechless.
I'm
Like literally, I'm just
glad
speechless. Like
to hear
wow. Yeah. Like I honestly never knew that that this could happen. Like like people could
that.
just change it.
I
Yeah.
once found out about a guy who, in his undergraduate, he studied English literature. I mean, and then he
Yeah.
did a master's in commerce, and now he's working at the bank.
Wow. So you can
It's
literally
possible.
go. So you can literally go from any single course you want, and you can just enter into your career.
I would
Like
say
mostly, yeah,
99. I would say 99
yeah,
times out of 100. Yes. It
yeah,
all comes down to your mindset.
yeah.
Like
Okay,
I
that's
once met
that's
a
true.
person who I once met a person who studied finance and accounting, but then they did a diploma in data analytics or data science
Mm.
after uni, and that's how they got accepted into the data science stream.
Okay, wow, wow, wow. But yeah,
I mean,
man, honestly, like,
on the other hand, it stuns me how speechless you are, because this for me is very normal. It's I see
yeah,
it every day. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. You didn't
yeah.
study what you do now. Oh, yeah, big deal.
Like, I'm not
And
gonna
like,
lie.
well, once you're in, it's like on your first day of uni, nobody asks you what you scored in year 12. The point
Exactly,
is you made it in. It's like once you
exactly.
make it in, nobody asks you what you study. You might ask that for
Mm.
the sake of small talk, or
Yeah,
getting to know someone at a very surface level. But beyond that, nobody really cares.
exactly. Like, I honestly didn't know that I would actually be speechless. But honestly, that's actually pretty good.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear it. I'm really glad to hear it.
No, honestly, like I've actually really enjoyed this interview.